Welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the prelim fights for UFC Fight Night on ESPN Plus, Rodriguez versus Stevens. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the card and our first prelim. So in our first fight, we have in the lightweight division, Claudio Puelles versus Marcos Rosa Mariano. So looking at this fight, you got Mariano. He has a good frame. He has some power, some decent striking, but he's really not of this UFC caliber. His grappling is very deficient. I think he was pretty much brought in to help Venata get back on the winning side. Because Venata, he came in and fought Tony Ferguson on short notice, a silent fighter, fights of the night every single fight. But he was starting scared, get a bunch of draws, a bunch of losses. And he needed to get back on the winning side. So they brought in a guy who was 6-5 or was 6-4 at the time. And he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He fought, got submitted, and that was that. And Venata's back on the winning side. So he did his job. But I guess they're giving him another chance against a lower tier fighter, Puelles. But looking at this fight, Puelles, even though he might not be the most standout-ish fighter, he's a young fighter, a talented fighter. And I think he at least has the skills, or at least the starting point of skills. He has a solid record of 8-2. He has solid striking and even better grappling. And what it does Mariano lack, and that's grappling. I think Puelles has the skills to stand with him on the feet, but I think if he wants to, he could take it to the ground at almost any point. I don't think it's going to be that easy to take him down, but I think he should roughly have about around a 40% takedown accuracy against Mariano, and that's good enough, especially if he sets up with strikes, those takedowns. But I think avoid it on the feet because Mariano does have power. That gives him his one opportunity. On the ground, I think it's all Puelles. I think Puelles going to have a rougher time than Venata did. It's not going to be as easy, but I think he fills him out kind of in the first round, kind of set up the takedown, maybe secure the takedown and work for a submission. Well, and then I think in the second round, he kind of runs through what he did in the first round, but once he gets to the ground, he quickly secures the submission and gets Mariano out of there in the second round. So in this fight, I have Claudio Puelles via second round submission. Now on to our next fight, we have in the women's bantamweight division, Sijara Eubanks versus Beth Quaid. So Beth Quaid, she challenged for the title at one point against Ronda Rousey. Then lost that fight, kind of rebounded, then skidded again, rebounded, and kind of skidded again. And I think she's kind of on a slight skid right now. And you got Sijara Eubanks. Even though her record kind of questionable, her skills are certainly not. You cannot question her skills. She's big, she's physical, solid grappling, some of the best grappling in all of women's MMA currently. Striking, always improving. Kind of up there in age, but a very solid, dangerous fighter. I think at this point, Sijara Eubanks is just a hungrier fighter. I think Beth Quaid is trying to be hungry, but she kind of already reached, as far as she's going to reach. And as far as skill-wise, I think she's definitely the better striker, and Eubanks is definitely the better grappler. But I think Eubanks with her range and ever improving striking, I think she's gonna play with that range a little bit, keep Correia out on the outside trying to get in, and maybe kind of bait her to overcommit and set up some takedowns. I think on the ground, the physicality of Eubanks and the grappling, her heavy top control, her heavy top pressure, I think she's gonna be able to dominate Correia on the ground. I think it's gonna be a kind of a close fight where Eubanks winning off, just slightly edging the fight off her grappling. Then I think in that third round when both people need to do so, I think Eubanks will have that control, and Correia will try to overcommit to get back to her feet so she can put herself back in the fight or to win that round. I think when she's overcommitted to get back to her feet in that third round, I think Eubanks is able to submit her. Like when she exposes her neck or exposes a limb, I think Eubanks locks on and taps her out. So in this fight, I have Sijara Eubanks via third round submission. Now to our next fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, Vinicius Moreira versus Paul Craig. So I'm messing the name up. But good thing I'm not picking him, so I already spoiled this prediction. I'm not picking Moreira in this fight, and for just really one or two reasons. But Moreira is a solid fighter, especially when he gets to the ground. His striking not the best, chin's not the best, defense not the best, but his grappling, when he gets to the ground, he's like a fish in water. He's like a fish on land when he's striking on the feet, but he's like a fish in water when he gets on the ground. So that tells you all you need to know about him. Paul Craig on the other side, he's a full fighter. He does have some issues with striking defense, and sometimes mental stuff lapses in fight, or fight IQ seems to dip at points. But at least he's a full, complete fighter. He has striking. He could strike with. He has solid striking. It's just more so a mental thing. Grappling. He's a solid grappler as well. I see him as a more well-rounded fighter. I think he can hold his own with Moreira on the grappling, but I think he could take full advantage of Moreira on the feet. So basically, he can hold his own on the ground with Moreira, but that gives Moreira a chance to win. But on the feet, I think he can have his way with Moreira. So I think in this fighting, it might go to the ground for a little bit, but I think more so to me, Paul Craig exploiting Moreira on the feet, keep him at distance, keep him at the end of a jab, keep him at the end of his teeps, and just start hitting on it, tagging him like a pincushion. And I think he puts him out of there, kind of, I say late second round. So in this fight, I got Paul Craig via second round TKO. Now on to our next fight we have in the flyweight division, Sergio Pettis versus Tyson Nam. So this is a pretty interesting matchup here. As we all know, we got Sergio Pettis, the younger brother of former lightweight champion Anthony Pettis. Sergio Pettis is a solid striker. Grappling has always been kind of questionable, but he's not like no slouching in grappling. It's just that there's opportunity to dominate him in the grappling. Like, he does have some issues, maybe in the scrambles or maybe with real tough grapplers. But other than that, solid striker, questionable chin, somewhat not very questionable grappling, but he can be dominated there by a certain level of the fighter. And that's pretty much Sergio Pettis right there. You got Tyson Nam on the other side. This is where the interest come in right here. Tyson Nam, his career has not really been much to talk about, but he does have wins over some interesting competition. Like, he's more so the upset guy. His record is not, his wins other than those upsets not going to really impress you. His consistency not going to impress you. His accomplishments not going to really impress you. But upset, he only has 2 upsets, I believe. But yeah, those 2 upsets are pretty much his claim to fame. His first big upset was the KO over then champion Eduardo Dantas. Dantas was the champion. He was supposed to be this, supposed to be that. And I think for some reason he was having some contract issues, and Bellator stepped out and Tyson Nam KO'd him in Shooto Brazil. And then not too long ago, in 2017, he KO'd Ali Bagutinov, a long-time top 125er in global, I think in the Russian circuit. So he has 2 big upset wins. But other than that, he really hasn't did much. He's a solid fighter, he's skilled and all that, but definitely not the highest tier fighter. So I think in this fight, there's an interest in betting on Nam based off the fact that he does have that upset potential, and also the fact that Sergio Pettis does have a questionable chin. But other than that, I think Sergio Pettis is the better fighter. I don't think Nam can really dominate him in grappling. I don't think Nam is more so a striker. And I think as far as technical striking, I think Sergio Pettis is clearly the better, more technical striker. I think he's the fast fighter, and I think he's the sharper fighter. I think it's a pretty clean-cut decision for Pettis. There might be some scares here and there, but I think as far as just off technique-wise, volume, landing the cleaner, crisper strikes, and dictating the pace of the fight, I think that's all Sergio Pettis in this one, and I think he wins the decision. So in this fight, I have Sergio Pettis via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the women's strawweight division, Ariane Carnelossi versus Angela Hill. So looking at this fight, Carnelossi does have an impressive record. She does have some decent wins, but I think she just hasn't fought this level of competition. And Angela Hill, she might not be the most stellar fighter, but she certainly is one of the better strikers in this weight class. She's very fast. She's very solid, very skilled. Her grappling definitely does leave you scratching your head sometimes. Her fight decision does leave you scratching your head sometimes, but at least she is of this level. And I think Carnelossi, I think she has a good future ahead of her, but I think she's a very young fighter who hasn't really fought this level of competition. I think she'll give up a lot of speed. I think Angela Hill is much sharper than her, and I don't think Carnelossi really brings the grappling to really challenge Angela Hill too much in that area. I think she would need that a lot more than she has it at the moment to round her skills out. And I think at this point right now, just kind of more so a semi-MMA match, but more so a striking match. And I think at this point, Angela Hill, she's going to be stuck in Angela Hill realm, being behind the punches, behind behind on the stats a little bit, because Angela Hill will be faster, sharper, landing those cleaner shots. The speed, like I said, the sharper shots, just has all of that on the feet over Carnelossi, and I don't think Carnelossi really has the grappling to threaten her. So, in this fight, to sum it up, I have Angela Hill via decision. Now on to our next fight, we have our co-prelim headliner we have in the featherweight division, Marco Polo Reyes versus Kyle Nelson. So looking at this fight, you got Polo Reyes, who was looking good at one point, then skidded again. So looking at his last fight, I think he got his last fight he got pretty much took, not his last fight, but in his last 2 fights, he was looking good against Damir Hadzovic. In the first round, was outstriking him, looking fast, looking sharp. Then Damir Hadzovic took him down, and once he took him down, it was this clear domination. He was able to get him out of there with haste. He got him out of there pretty quick, just dominate him. And Damir Hadzovic's not even really that solid of a grappler, and he just took him down and dominated him with ease. And then in the next fight, he got knocked out, I think, within the first minute and a couple seconds by Drew Dober, so he's not looking very good. He's coming off 2 very bad losses. You got Kyle Nelson. I don't think he has any wins in the UFC. I think he's coming off 2 losses as well. I think he lost to Vieira, which isn't a bad loss. I think he got submitted by Matt Sells. But look at it with Polo Reyes, I see him kind of more of a one-dimensional fighter. He's a striker. He has power. He's fast, but it's not the most technical striker. But he does have that power. He is very athletic, but technique not really there, especially not in the grappling areas. I think Kyle Nelson, he's talking about his power, talking about this, talking about that. But I think where Carnelossi going to find advantages in the grappling. And yes, it might be in Mexico, so I mean it is in Mexico, so it might give Reyes extra added boost to do more, to train harder and do this and that. That's a concern for it if you're picking against him like I am for this fight. But I think Carnelossi, like, I don't think just because he's in Mexico, his grappling's going to improve all that much. I think he's going to try, his takedown defense might improve, but I think Carnellossi's pressure with the grappling, if he chooses that route, which will be the smarter route, I think he could find a very viable path to victory in this fight. And Carnelossi is going to mix in the grappling and take him down. If he was able to take down some decent fighters, I think he took down he didn't fight Barcelos. I think he might take down, Fiera might once in that fight. I think he took down Sells like twice in that fight. So with that grappling and applying that pressure, I think he could take down Reyes. And I think he can edge the fighting on the feet. Reyes is going to be winning, but I think the control on the ground by Nelson is going to be able to edge the fight for him. So in this fight, I got Carnelossi via decision. Now on to our next fight. We have in the bantamweight division, Jose Alberto Quinonez. So this is our prelim headliner. We have Jose Alberto Quinonez versus Carlos Huachin in the prelim headliner. So this is in the bantamweight division. So looking at this fight, I think Carlos Huachin showed himself to be of this caliber. He was more than holding his own with Ronnie Barcelos in that first round of that fight. Then the second round, he was just pretty much dominated, dropped, hurt, and beat on till the ref stopped it. You know, it stopped kind of early, but he still showed in that first round that he's a solid fighter. But that being said, he's a young fighter. He's like 22, 23, very young. The skills are certainly there, but I don't think they're going to just, have that leap and bound and just from one fight to the next. I think he's going to be competitive in this fight. But I think Jose Alberto Quinonez is just a more veteran fighter. He's still a growing fighter himself as well. We've definitely seen him from the Latin American season he was on go from kind of looking like a raw talent to starting to see his boxing start to crisping up. And just overall become a much cleaner fighting in this fight. He's a cleaner boxer, cleaner striker. And I think Huachin more so falls into the striker aspect right now. He certainly can work on other areas, but he more so falls into a striker aspect. And I think at this point, Quinonez, like I said, the more experienced fighter, the cleaner boxer. I think he has the range. I think he's like 5'8", 5'9", and Huachin's only like 5'4", so he'll have a huge height and reach advantage, and he's gonna have that boxing ability to take advantage of that huge height and reach advantage, or that discrepancy on his side or against Huachin. But like I said, Huachin's talented and all, and he shows some skill and he shows some potential. But I think at this point, Quinonez is just the better fighter at the moment, and he has the stuff. He has the better boxing, and he has the height and the range, and he has the skills to exploit those advantages. I don't think he stops Huachin. I think Huachin's a tough kid. But I think Quinonez fully exploits his advantages and fully uses his experience to beat Huachin in probably a gritty type of fight. I think Huachin's going to be bringing that heart, he's going to be bringing that skill, but it's just not going to measure up enough to get the win in this fight. So in this fight, I got Jose Alberto Quinonez via decision. And that concludes my fight predictions for the prelims of UFC Fight Night on ESPN+, Rodriguez versus Stevens. And as always, thanks for watching.